Welcome to my presentation. In this presentation, let us look at some application problems to solve linear equations. Let us say to paint the outside of your home, it's going to cost you $1,500. Let's say, okay? If the cost of the materials alone, like the paint and the brushes and all the other things, if that is going to cost $150, and if the cost of labor, the person who's going to do the job, is going to be $40 per hour, how many hours of labor will be required? So we can treat this as an application problem, and then we can try to write the known quantities and the unknown quantities in terms of a linear equation, and then go find the unknown quantity. So let's see how we can do that. Step number one. We have some fixed costs. Let me write that as fixed costs, plus there are some variable costs. Let me write this. Variable costs. Fixed costs plus variable costs, that is going to be equal to our total cost. Okay, so the fixed costs here are the cost of materials is a fixed cost, so we can write that as $150, and the variable cost here, as I see it, is the cost of labor. It's going to cost us $40 per hour, but we also do not know. We want to go find the number of hours required by the person to paint the house. So since we do not know that quantity, we'll call that as N. So that is the variable part in here. So $150 is the fixed cost, that is the cost of materials. And if it costs us $40 per hour, and if the person works for N number of hours, we need to go find what the N is. How many hours does it take for the person to paint the house? And if the total amount is going to be equal to $1,500, this is looking like a 6, so let me write it as a 5. 1500. Okay, so therefore we have an equation. The equation is 150 plus 40n is equal to 1500. When we solve this equation, we should be able to figure out the number of hours required to paint the home. So in here we'll go with the second step, and we have now boiled it down to a linear equation. And since we have 150 on the left hand side, we want to isolate the n term on one side of the equation. So we're going to subtract 150 on both sides of the equation. So add negative 150 to both sides of the equation. And when we do that, this is what we're going to come up with. 150 minus 150 plus 40n is equal to 1500 minus 150. So let me write this in red, minus 150, and we are subtracting 150 on both sides of the equation. So the positive 150 and negative 150 cancels out, leaving us with 40n is equal to 1350. 1500 minus 150 is equal to 1350. Therefore we want to find the value of n, not 40n. So therefore we will bring that in the next step. In step number 3, since we want to find the value of n, and since we have 40 as the coefficient of n, we want to multiply by the reciprocal of 40. If we have 40, the reciprocal of 40 is 1 over 40, and when we multiply a number by its reciprocal, the product is always going to be equal to 1. Therefore, multiply by 1 over 40 on both sides of the equation. And when we do that, this is how we can write it down. 40n times 1 over 40 is equal to 1350 times 1 over 40. And therefore, when we simplify this, the 40 in the numerator, 40 in the denominator cancels out, leaving us with n as equal to 33.75. And what is this telling us? It takes that person 33 3/4 hour to paint the inside of the house. So let me write that. Note. I'm going to write this as a note. It takes 33 3/4 hours to complete the work. To complete the work. Okay, and that's the way we want to be able to solve these types of application problems. We can also go back and then check our work. The way to check our work is as follows. We will write that as the next step, step number 4, and then if we were to take the original equation, which is 40n plus 150 is equal to 1500, and then if you were to substitute the value of n as equal to 33.75, $40 per hour, and then if it works for 33.75 hours plus 150, that should equal to the total amount which we are going to pay, which is $1,500. 40 times 33.75 is going to be equal to 1350, and if we were to add 150 to that, that should equal to 1500. So 1350 plus 150 is in fact equal to 1500. That is exactly the value what we have on the right hand side, and therefore this only goes to prove that the value of n what we have arrived at here is exactly correct, 33.75. So the point here is we had a practical real world application problem. We know the fixed cost of the job. We know the cost per hour, and we also know the total amount of money which we're going to spend on the job. We wanted to know the number of hours it is going to take, and we can solve those types of problems, those types of real world problems with the help of linear equations. In my next presentation, we should look at some more application problems and see how we can solve linear equations.